I think you're good to go, Arnie.
You're done,
All
yeah.
right. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the February 17th, 2022 meeting of the Danbury Planning Commission. We will open with the roll call. Mr. Urice. Jen, did we hear from Joel?
No.
Okay, I'll put him down as absent for now. Ms. Hofstad.
Here.
Mr. Kiokio.
Here.
Mr. Sylvain.
Here.
I believe, is Mr. Renz or Mr. Haas on this evening? No. Okay, Chairman Finaldi is here. I will not seat any alternates. Mr. Urice, I would imagine, may be joining us later. We will see. Just real quick, if there's anyone on with us right now that is participating so they could hear the matter of 46 Mill Plain LLC, please know that the applicant has requested a continuance to our next meeting. So we will not be hearing any testimony or having any discussion of any kind on the matter of 46 Mill Plain LLC this evening. So if you're on for that application, you'll have to tune into the next meeting. We won't be taking any action or talking
Which
about.
is for Westcon Park.
Yes,
Oh,
Westcon, Mill Plain Road, Westcon Park.
And
Okay,
the
with
only
that,
thing if I may, Mr. Chairman, the only
Please.
thing I'll add is if there is anybody on, and if you'd like to know if it's going to be on the next agenda, to contact the department March 1st, and we'll know by then if it's on the agenda.
correct. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thanks.
Okay, I will just make my standard virtual meeting introduction, if I may. This meeting of the Danbury Planning Commission is being held on Zoom as a virtual meeting. Even though the meeting is a virtual meeting, members of the public and interested parties continue to have the opportunity to participate in the meeting in a couple of different ways. You can participate via Zoom and see the audio and the video, or you can call in by phone and participate via audio only. Please be aware that we may have to mute your microphone or telephone to avoid an echo or some other background noise. Instructions on how to participate in the meeting appear on the City of Danbury website, and all of the documents and materials that apply to the matters to be discussed during this meeting, including the agenda, are also available on the City of Danbury website. As always, if you have any questions regarding how to participate in the meeting, please contact the City of Danbury Planning and Zoning Department. As a reminder, the entire meeting will be posted on and can be seen on the City of Danbury website. We will follow the posted agenda as per standard practice. If prior to the meeting, any questions or comments on agenda items were submitted via email to the Planning and Zoning Department, those comments will be read during the appropriate portion of the meeting. Finally, please remember that technology glitches do sometimes occur. Please be patient if that happens. Commission members, the first item on our agenda is the acceptance of minutes. Previously distributed were the minutes of the February 2nd and February 3rd meetings. Unless there is any discussion or comments, I'll entertain a motion to accept those minutes.
So moved. Ellen.
Second.
Thank
Perry.
you. Thank you very much. A motion to accept made by Helen, seconded by Perry. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
The minutes of the February 2nd and 3rd meeting are accepted. Please note your calendars, commission members. The next meeting is scheduled for March 2nd, 2022 at 7:30 p.m. With that said, we will go right to our first public hearing this evening. Number 1, Alpha Professional Building LLC. Application for special exception, revised site plan approval for conversion of professional office space to medical office space in the CA80 zone, 34 Mill Plain Road, E15104, special exception number 783. I will read the legal notice. Notice is hereby given that the Planning Commission of the City of Danbury will hold public hearings commencing at 7:30 p.m. on Thursday, February 17, 2022, in a web-based special meeting hosted on Zoom to consider the following matters. Alpha Professional Building LLC, application for special exception, revised site plan approval for conversion of professional office space to medical office space in the CA80 zone, 34 Mill Plain Road, E15104, special exception 783. Copies of these applications are on file in the Planning and Zoning Office for public inspection. Parties and interested citizens shall have an opportunity to be heard at this time. Agenda to be posted will include instructions on how to access the Zoom meeting and the application materials and view the meeting in real time on YouTube. Arnold E. Finaldi Jr., Chairman, posted on city website and Town Clerk's office on February 1, 2022, published in the News Times on February 2nd, February 11th, 2022, purchase order number 2021-174. Commission members, several documents that apply to this application were previously distributed, or links to those were included on the agenda. And with that said, is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of this application?
Yes, good evening. For the record, Mike Mizuko, professional engineer representing the applicant for a request for a special exception on this parcel. It's an existing building in the CA 80 zone. It is non-conforming because of its size. The building was built, I think, in maybe the late 70s, and they did get a variance for the side yard when they built it, and there was a large right-of-way width in front of the property. And if I can share my screen, it might be easier if I can walk you through that. Okay, has everybody seen that?
There it is.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So the existing buildings here, you've got 84, which is, well, the railroad tracks, and then 84 to the left of that. You've got Mill Plain Road here, and then Kenosha Avenue. So you can see this, the property line is here. There was a large right-of-way width here, and they had over the years started using that to park cars because it was just so tight in here. And then when the current owner of the property acquired it, I don't think anybody realized that they didn't own that property. So once they realized, when they got an updated survey, they went and they entered into a long-term lease agreement for this sort of, I guess you want to call it a triangle here with the city of Danbury to allow that parking. When they did that, when they completed that lease agreement, we came in for a site plan approval to expand the parking in 2020. And so the parking, most of that improvement has already been done. I'd say 90% of it. Drainage, parking is pretty much complete. The only thing I think that's remaining is the landscaping. At the time, in the back of the owner's mind was that he would, if there was an opportunity that came along to maybe have medical in here, they were going to try to pursue it. We weren't aware or didn't realize that because it's a non-conforming lot, that there's the section in the zoning regulations that says if it's non-conforming, you're limited to one allowed use. And the building is really, it's 2 floors. There's no elevator. The second floor is not really conducive to medical use. And so we went to the ZBA and requested a variance to allow multiple uses with the non-conforming lot, and they did approve it. And so we were able to proceed with the application that was submitted, and hence that's why we're here now with the public hearing. And so the one thing that we had talked about was in the first site plan approval, they put a sidewalk from the, I guess that would be the south. So south of the entrance, the curb cut, they ran the sidewalk out to the bridge. And then there was a stipulation or a note on the plan that if they ever decided to do medical use, that we would continue the sidewalk out to an existing sidewalk crosswalk bulkhead here at Mill Plain Road. And so that's kind of where we are. We submitted the application. It's not a lot of site work except for the sidewalk. I know Jennifer wanted to extend it out to the property. It was some comments from her, which we'll do. And a couple of comments from highway about, and traffic, replacing the curb here, which is fine. We did agree though, when they did this sidewalk, they said that we could leave this alone, this curbing here. So that was what we met Rob Barone out there in the field. So those were the couple of comments. The only one that I just have a little bit of an issue with, and it was raised by the traffic engineer, and Jennifer also put it, I think because of the comment of the traffic engineer, put it in her staff report, was the need for a loading space. And I think for typically for medical use, a loading space is really not warranted, and especially for something this small. Now, I just took a ride around a bunch of medical buildings on Hospital Avenue, Germantown, and Sand Pit, and I visited over 10 buildings, and a lot of them are 3 stories and have much more square footage in terms of medical space. And the only one that I could see that had a what I assume was a loading area, because it said no parking signs on it, was like a little bit of a pull off, was at 69 Sand Pit, but 67 Sand Pit, no. 73 Sand Pit, no. 79 Sand Pit, no. 41 Germantown, which is Pediatric Associates, no. The other 2 buildings that are real similar, no, none there. 7 Germantown, which is where Quest is, there's none there. There were none at 27, 33, or 39 Hospital Avenue. So, and then the other thing is if a vehicle, can pull in, easily back up either way, pull in to the right, back up, and then get out. So I just feel like the request for a loading zone is not warranted, and I'd hate to give up 2 or 3 parking spaces for a loading zone that's probably going to get used very little. So that's really it. Like I said, most of this work is done, and we're just seeking to have that medical use permitted on the first floor.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Any questions for Mr. Mizuko at this time, commission members? Anything?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, please.
Mike, how long is the license agreement with the city? Is it in perpetuity, or is it a fixed term?
That I don't know.
I'm just wondering if for any reason that doesn't get extended, what happens, then there's probably not enough parking there. And I know, is this the property next to where they possibly considered, I guess, another firehouse or something to do with the fire? No, it's not that.
No,
Okay.
I mean, right here is the railroad tracks and then 84. So there's nothing here. We've got
Okay.
an office building here. I think 7-Eleven's across the street here.
Yep.
And you've got the bank.
Okay.
Is to the east. So
Yep.
Mike,
yes.
this is Steve, the owner.
Okay, Steve Philbakis is the owner.
Okay, for the lease term, it's 20 years and I renew every 10 years. It's a long-term lease.
Okay, good. Could the speaker identify who they are for the record, their name and address for the
Yes.
record?
Yes, Steve Philippakos, I'm the owner of the property there, one of the property. And regarding the lease, the question on the lease, it's 20 years and it's $1,000 a year for an extended, it's a long-term lease.
Okay.
Great.
Okay, thank you very much for that clarification. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And Mike, is there any
Chairman?
medical there now?
No, there's no medical now.
Okay, that's all I had.
Thank you, Bob. Any
Mr.
other
Chairman?
questions? Yes, please.
Um,
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Helen.
no, that's okay.
No, go ahead, please.
Okay, so right now it's a single use, it's not, there's no medical in it, and you don't have any loading zone for what's there already, is that correct?
No, because typically for like normal business office space, and again, I think this medical use as well, for the most part, doesn't require a loading zone, and I've given, numerous examples of medical buildings that are much more in size and square footage that don't have loading zones. I just feel it's not something, usually deliveries are gonna be in like a FedEx vehicle. You might get a UPS truck, but the biggest thing is probably once they move in their office equipment and getting their office set up with tables and desks and things like that. But aside from that, after that, I just not seeing the need. I've just never seen like a huge, large truck making deliveries to a medical building. I mean, yeah, obviously it's different if you're a hospital, and the larger it is, maybe there's more of a need and might warrant the loading spot. But in this case, where this amount of square footage doesn't warrant it.
Okay, thank you. And I have one other question about the sidewalks.
Yes.
I think it's in the staff report that the sidewalk there has to be a sidewalk along Mill Plain, but that doesn't look like is there anything there that's actually on Mill Plain? I'm having trouble understanding the layout
Right.
of the sidewalk.
So the comment, and Jennifer can weigh in, but I think it's just this piece extending out to the property corner that she would like to get filled in, because we're proposing a sidewalk here and then along Kenosha Avenue to the driveway curb cut.
Okay, so you'd get rid of that little elbow to the right then and just move it out to the end of the property?
Well, this is already existing here. See that?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that
Okay.
the state put that in, so we would just try to keep the sidewalk back away from the edge of the road, just for, potential widening or snow storage, things like that. So we would just, continue it along here and just fill in that gap that's missing to the property corner.
Okay, that's great. Thank you for explaining that.
Sure.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Helen. Any other questions for Mr. Mizuko? Oh, actually, no, I'm sorry, yeah. Any other questions for Mike Mizuko at this time, commission members?
Just a
Chairman?
comment.
Oh, sorry, Perry, go ahead.
Thank you. The primary thing that had stuck out to me in the staff reports was the loading zone area. So I appreciate you, Mr. Mizuko, addressing that, and for the research you did to provide some context. So my question will really be for staff, why they feel the traffic engineer included that comment, and do they feel Mr. Mizuko's addressed those concerns? Thanks.
Jen, you want that one?
Sure. And actually, before I address Perry's question, I wanted to clarify the term of the license agreement with the city. It's actually 10 years, and I'm looking at the license agreement. It's 10 years with the automatic renewal of an additional 10 years.
Okay.
So it's not 20 plus 10, it's 10 plus 10.
Sorry, confused.
Got it.
Again, we would consider that a long term. I think that was the question.
Yep, thanks.
And then with respect to the loading, so although the zoning regulations don't necessarily require the loading zone, what we're seeing, and again, all of the medical offices that Mike cited were built, 5, 10, 15 years ago. What we're seeing are these kind of the last mile deliveries, Amazon, FedEx, UPS, and they just park where they want. And we're seeing this more and more, regardless of whether they're definitely not big box trucks, but we are seeing those, the UPS trucks, FedEx and Amazon Prime. So that was, again, it's a recommendation. I can't require it through the zoning regulations, but that's where the traffic engineers comment comes from, as well as my comment. We're just seeing these smaller delivery vehicles more and more, and given the limited circulation within this site, I think having a designated parking space for that loading area, I'm not talking about a 500 square foot space, but enough, for one of these trucks to pull in and not be in the way of the general circulation through the site.
And if it's just, marking one spot for loading, we're okay. We have 6 extra spaces, even with the, the current proposed uses. So, I mean, I think that's okay. I wouldn't have a problem with that.
Yeah,
So-
I would add that, yeah, as per the staff report, they're required to have 23 spaces. They have 29. So there's actually, that includes 2 handicap spaces. So they actually have a little extra in the, with regard to the parking requirements. So just wanted to make sure that I got that in there.
Thank
So I
you.
think what staff would ask, and again, this will be up to the planning commission. If the commission chooses to close and, we can, and we're not there yet, but I would ask with respect to the loading that, because there are other revisions that have to happen, that you would take one space, hatch it out, and then install a sign loading space. And in addition, the ZBA had included a stipulation that the parking spaces up front be designated for the medical spaces, the parking spaces near the entrance of the building be designated for use of the medical office. So just make sure that loading zone is outside of those areas.
Oh, yeah, I'm thinking the loading maybe in this last spot here, because the door is right here.
Okay.
Yep.
Good.
And again,
Is there-
we can work that out, after the approval.
Yeah, and I haven't gotten my hands on the actual variance with the condition and stipulation, because it just happened so fast. It was just recent that we got that, but I'll get my hands on that and make sure that we address the stipulation and condition appropriately.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application? Anyone else in favor? Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application? Anyone in opposition? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application? Okay, I think we've discussed it thoroughly. I mean, there's no open items, Jen, that I'm aware of. We're not waiting for department reports from anybody.
No.
Commission.
I mean, it's up to the commission. I mean, we haven't received revisions, but Mike has agreed on the record to make those changes, so we can certainly, add, a condition that would require compliance with the items in the staff report, as well as the installation of that loading space.
Okay, I mean, commission members, we've got a lot of stuff moving along the pipeline here. I would just as soon close the public hearing unless anyone has a reason to keep it open otherwise.
For the applicant, we have no objection.
Thank you. Anyone?
Mr. Chairman? Mr.
Yes,
Chairman,
Bob.
I'll make a motion to close this hearing.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
Second,
Second, Mr. Payne. There's been a motion and a second to close the public hearing. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will try your minds. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? This public hearing is closed. Jen, do you want to move this for discussion?
Yes, please.
All right, I'll entertain hold on, where are we here? I'll entertain a motion to move this on our agenda to item 1 under old business for discussion and possible action.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Helen, seconded by Bob. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so the matter of Alpha Professional Building will be item 1 under our old business agenda. Excellent, thank you. Moving right along, item 2, second public hearing this evening, JAR Associates LLC. Application for revised special exception, revised site plan approval for continued approved special exception use of storage, sale, rental, and/or repair of construction equipment and add storage or sale of building materials, 42 Kenosha Avenue, E17086, special exception number 641. And again, all of the documents that pertain to this application were linked to the agenda. Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of this application?
Or Mike Mizuko, professional engineer representing the applicant. I know Neil Marcus is here as well.
Good evening.
And so this is for 42 Kenosha Avenue. It was a property that originally we started out with a special exception application for medical use. It shortly thereafter, I don't even know if we got the final approval on the medical use, but shortly thereafter we switched or we changed it to a heavy construction equipment outfit. And we saw approvals for that in 2006. It was Edward Airbar, and they were there for a number of years, and it has been vacant, and I'm not sure how long. And the property was recently bought by JAR Associates, and then more recently than that, it was purchased by the applicant's affiliate. It's DC7 Properties, which is noted in the authorization letter from JAR Associates, which was included in the application package. But the proposal is really not much. There's a minor change. We're asking a special exception addition use of storage and sale of building materials in addition to the existing special exception use for Edward Airbar, which was the repair, sales, and rental of equipment, construction equipment. So that's what we're looking to do. The site is not really changing that much. I'll, if I can share my screen, I'll just walk you through some of the things that we did. It was very minor in nature. So again, the existing building is here. There's parking in the front. In 2007, there was a application for a site plan revision to convert these spaces here to display area, as well as two small areas in front, which was approved. They're looking to, right now, there's a fence here. The applicant's looking to move that fence to here. We're going to install an island and put just a tree there just to differentiate that row and break that row off. So the fence will be here, or gate, I'm sorry, and then the fence will continue along here, wrap around the back, and then come back up to an existing gate here. And we did just sort of identify, per Jennifer's request, to identify the storage areas and their sizes. And we also just added a note just to clarify, you know, what types of products that Superior is going to be keeping on the property for their uses and sales and things like that. So we added that note, and Jennifer had asked for a detail of the fence. It's just going to be a chain link fence. It will have screening slats in the front here just to sort of provide some, you know, some screening so you can't see through, a little bit of privacy there. But other than that, that's really the gist of the application and the site plan revision and the special exception request. Oh, and then the other thing was back in 2007, we showed the relocation of the dumpster because it was in this area, and I couldn't see where it was there. I think they might have just put it on top of the ground, but they never put a fence around it. So we did show that in this location, and then added a detail with the enclosure that's supposed to be there per the regulations. So that's it. There's a representative from the company here if you've got any further questions. But again, that property has been transferred to their affiliate DC7 Properties LLC, and any approval should reflect that, Jennifer. So if there's any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Commission members, any questions for Mr. Mizuko at this time? I just had one question For Jen, this was the place, Edward Air Bar, they had the big crane, the industrial lifts, all that big equipment out there on display, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Commission members, anything for the applicant at this point?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, please.
Mike, you went through it pretty quick. So what type of items will be stored there?
Yeah, just, I can't say specifically what type of materials will be stored in the various locations, but we just put they went and listed all of their products that they have, and it would be, they do sewer drain pipe, waterworks pipe, hydrants, fittings,
it.
construction material, and wire mesh rebar, rigid foam, septic tanks, geotextiles, conduit, stormwater chambers, manhole frames and covers, utility precast, and rental equipment.
Okay, so all that'll be stored outside. Anything stored inside?
I'm sure they'll have, there's back in the back of this building they had their service bays all back here. So I'm sure some of the stuff will be stored inside here. You know, some of their rental stuff will be stored inside just because it'll be out of the weather. And then they'll be servicing that stuff there. And then they have just inside the building more product that's like off the shelf stuff that they would.
Got
be
it,
selling.
okay. Yep, okay. And so what, will there be, I don't know what, dividers, I guess, outside there to kind of segregate the different types of materials and kind of keep it,
It's not that kind of, if you're thinking like sand and gravel, you might have dividers, but this is just stockpiled
Okay.
material that doesn't need that wouldn't apply to this type of storage.
yep, got it, okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Mizuko, commission members at this time? Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Anyone else in favor? Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application?
Mr. Chairman,
Chairman.
if I'm not interrupting, Neil Marcus. Am I on my, yeah, I'm not on mute. I've recently been consulted by DC7, which is a purchaser from JAR of this property. They just wanted a second opinion essentially on whether the use that they were proposing was consistent with the zone in the neighborhood. And I have a bit of a historical perspective. I think I may have surprised my client when I said my memory of this project property goes back to when Mrs. Bennett's house was located there. But a number of years ago, I was involved with a client, which was a group of investors that actually included my brother, Michael, and they purchased the Bennett property and the piece next door. And they were the ones that started down the road towards the medical use. But EBAR came along and wanted to purchase the property, and we arranged the sale to them subject to the use that is currently there, as Mike has described. EBAR, I thought, was a terrific user of the property. Again, it's a busy area, and that type of use doesn't generate lots of traffic. They were, we thought, a pretty good operator at the time that we entered into the original deal. The current operator, I think, is just a step above. They've got a history in the state of Connecticut with a number of operations, and they've done a terrific job with their current locations. They see that they can service this market, but to do it, they go one step beyond where EBAR was, and that is that not only do they rent the equipment, but they also provide some of the basic building materials that you use with the equipment. So stuff like, as Mike said, a pipe and conduit. From my perspective, I think that the proposal is relatively minor, as Mike has explained to you. But I think that given the type of business that they're in and what's going on in the city of Danbury, which is, as you know, leads the state in construction and in infrastructure and things like that, that this is a win-win. to have somebody occupy this building again. So I'm strongly urging you to approve this. And again, if there's any questions about this history of the site, Mike goes back a long ways, and I go back just a little bit before that. So I'd be happy if the commission has any questions, but I promised Jennifer I'd be brief tonight in support of this, and that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Attorney Marcus. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application?
Mr.
Anyone else?
Chairman,
Yes, please.
Paul Rotello, 13 Linden Place, Danbury. I really have more questions than comments about this, although I'm agnostic on the proposal. I'm not quite sure what's going to be done with the building. And as long as the frontage remains uncluttered, I don't really see an issue with it for the Sixth Ward. But my question is, if somebody could tell me the linear feet between the entrance and exit of this petition and Apple Blossom, I'm not quite sure how to locate that.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm gonna call the opposition, and then after we make sure
Okay,
there's
that's fine.
opposition.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah,
I will then ask the applicant to respond to your question.
that's fine, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application? Anyone else in favor? Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application? Anyone in opposition? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application? Okay, Mike, there was a question from Mr. Rotello. I hope you heard it. Can you respond to it?
I did, but can you be more specific about what the dimension that you're looking for?
Linear feet, Mike, between your entrance and Apple Blossom.
Apple Blossom or Apple Ridge?
Is it Apple Ridge, the Cardis entrance?
Apple Ridge.
Apple Ridge.
Thank you.
Okay, so
Yeah, Apple Blossom someplace else.
yeah, so from Apple Ridge center line to our closest entrance center line is about 500 feet.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Neil.
You're welcome. Okay, I believe I called the opposition. Commission members, anything else? Any further questions for the applicant?
Mr. Chairman, I just have a brief one or two. I guess there's construction equipment on site. And it says, I guess in the documentation that the construction equipment repairs would be done in the building. Where is there storage of the equipment when they're not being repaired, and where would that be? If you already pointed that out, I guess I missed it. But.
Yeah, we didn't specifically say, but we have the rear, there's a drop off towards the rear, which is down here. It's a lower elevation because the grade dropped off from the road. But this is
Okay.
at a higher level, right directly behind the building. So we have an area here that we've identified as, I'll just, that area there for storage. And then there's a small area here, and then the entire area down and back as storage. But most of their storage needs are for product and not so much equipment.
Okay.
Okay.
Is there anything oversized in the equipment inventory that we need to worry about in terms of heights? And,
No, much less in terms of size than the previous owner and occupier of the site. They had that theirs was heavy equipment. This is just smaller construction equipment and not anything extremely large.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Anything else, commission members? Any other questions for the applicant? Well, again, this is a fairly straightforward application. We are not waiting for any departmental reports or anything else, but I will leave it up to the commission. If you're comfortable, and Jennifer, I'll just run it by you. I see no compelling reason to not close this evening unless I'm missing something.
No, Mr. Chairman, the handful of comments I had in my staff report have been resolved. Mike submitted those revisions right before we got the agenda out, actually. So they're on the agenda. I didn't issue a final staff report. I didn't see the need to, but all my comments have been resolved. So if it pleases the commission, you can certainly close it tonight.
Okay, in that case,
Mr. Chairman,
yes, Mr. Sylvain.
I would make a motion to close the public hearing and move this item to old business for possible, for discussion and possible action.
Great. Do I hear a second?
Second,
Okay, motion has been made and seconded to close this public hearing and move this to what would be item 2 under our old business agenda. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I will try your minds. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
aye.
Opposed? This public hearing is closed and the matter is moved to item 2. Let me make a note of that. Under our old business agenda. Thank you. All right, we're moving right along to continuation of public hearings. Item 1, TD RAP LLC. Application for a special exception, revised site plan approval for self-storage, modern self-storage in the IL40 zone, 12 Great Pasture Road, L16010, special exception number 782. Again, commission members, several documents that pertain to this matter were linked to the agenda. Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of this application? I guess we're back to Mr. Mizuko.
Yeah, going for the trifecta here. Good evening, for the
Yeah.
record, Mike Mizuko, professional engineer. My office is in Danbury, representing the applicant on this proposal for a self-storage facility. And we did get staff comments. We did respond to that. And we just yesterday or the day before, I did get another set of comments from engineering and some additional comments from staff regarding just some additional comments about mapping, topo, existing conditions, elevations and things like that. But I can go through, if I can share my screen, I'll walk you through some of the revisions. So we ended up, there was a couple of comments about this parking area in the front with regard to the island backing up to, so I just reorientated this last spot. So it angles straight back, so you'll be able to back out with that 24-foot of backing key required. And we ended up with 2 islands on each side. And well, we had to shift a little bit from the handicap space was slightly over the front setback line. So we took care of all of that. And Jennifer had requested a lighting plan. And what we ended up doing was, instead of, I think we had 2 or 3 post lights in the back and maybe 1 in the front, we ended up just putting in wall packs around the building and then 1 on the existing building. And so we were able to provide the lighting and not shed anything off with those, which works out to be a little bit easier. And so the question, it's like the follow-up questions, there's some things from engineering that we have to just further address. And then let me get back to the site plan. So the question was with regard to this area down here in the floodplain. Jennifer had asked for some more spot elevations and additional surveying information. And so New England Land Surveying went out and picked up additional spot elevations, and it basically confirms kind of like where this limit of wetlands is, which is where pretty much where the previous filling had occurred. And so you can see like the spot elevation 356.1, you got 356.1 over here, 356, sorry, 356 here, and then it bumps up 357.5. And so this is my 100-year flood based on the firm mapping. doesn't really coincide with the elevation of the floodplain that we feel based on the numbers on the flood insurance map. But that line, I did check with the surveyor. They agreed that their line matches the same exact, just pretty much exactly the same that I have it. So they're going to be updating their survey map to show that. And, you know, with regard to the floodplain, we're basically trying to reclaim as much of that as possible, but still just create the berms necessary that we had shown for the last application, which was approved by wetlands, which was again approved by wetlands recently under this application. And there was actually a floodplain permit that was issued for this, basically the same thing here. Now, what I did was just to try to get a better feel for, you know, what went on there. I was able to grab the city of Danbury topo, and I just grabbed these 3 lines in this lower area. But this, see all these blue squares here, that was the original 356 contour on the old, and I think that was 1987, if I remember correctly. And so you got 356 there and 358 here. So you've got like 357, like right in through here where, you know, you're 359. So roughly you have 2 feet of filling in here, but we're taking this detention basin down to 355.5. So we're actually, you know, slightly below the original grade that was there. And the reason for that was the stormwater management, but also to make up for the little bit of filling that we're doing here to create the berms. We couldn't regain all of it based on, you know, my numbers, but at least we were very close to the amount of filling that had occurred there. So that's where we are with that. And I know there was a question and I didn't quite have the answer, but it was actually listed on the architectural plans. There was a question about the number of units because we were referencing the life storage facility out on Kenosha Avenue. And we did find out that, because the question came up, well, how many units do we have? We're proposing 470 units in this building, but life storage has 1,166 units. So it's almost 2.5 times as many units, which is slightly more than the square footage and the difference in square footage and size of the 2 buildings. So it leads me to believe that there's probably more smaller units in the life storage facility than what we're proposing. But there is a breakout on the architectural floor plans that were submitted. There's a table on the floor plan that has a breakout of all the unit sizes, the number of them. And I think there was an interesting number there too. On they actually listed the percentage of rentable square footage, which is just slightly over 75% of the building was actually rentable space in terms of unit square footage. So that's where we are. We did, like I said, we did answer all the letters. I did talk to construction services. There was a question about this catch basin and changing it over to or moving it and changing it over to a curb back basin. But the problem is, and I explained this to Rob Barone, if you tried to get that catch basin on either side of the curb cut, you're basically having the need to eliminate a low point in the road of approximately 7 inches. So you just couldn't feasibly do it, unfortunately. And so he agreed, he understood. And so, that was resolved. We did add notes on signage from the traffic engineer. And I think the only other thing, there was a question about the turn, coming around this corner. But again, I think if you look at the numbers of vehicles using a self-storage facility of this size, We had presented some numbers of trips per day on the life storage, and it's not a lot. It's a very low use. And we feel that vehicle can come around there, get to a certain point and be able to see and turn and make that corner. And if a vehicle's coming down, they can certainly wait if needed. And so I haven't finalized the revisions. Like I said, I just got the engineering comments. I'm working with New England Land Surveying to get their final mapping. But I think we're about 90% there in terms of addressing all of the comments.
Okay. I'm sorry, Mike, am I interrupting you? Is that it?
No, that's about it. I think everything else, I'm trying to remember what revisions I made. I mean, I added a lot. I just went through all the letters and addressed them. And, there's a couple things additionally that the engineering department wants. So we'll go through and do that. I know one of them was they wanted stamp set of calculations for the sprinkler demand, but we'll get all that together, next week.
Thank you, Mike. At this point, commission members, any questions for Mr. Mizuko at this time? Okay. I have a couple, but I'll wait till after I call the opposition. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application? Anyone else in favor? Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application?
Ethan Draper would like.
Who's that?
Ethan Draper would like. He just raised his hand. He would like to speak. He's the applicant too.
Okay.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, if you could again state your name and address for the record.
Yep, my name is Ethan Draper, 48 Aunt Patty's Lane West in Bethel, Connecticut. So I'm just going to briefly talk about myself, this project, and the self-storage market in the city of Danbury. So this project is extremely important to myself as well as my family, due to it not only being my job, but my future career in the self-storage industry. I'm 25 years old and a lifelong Bethel resident who attended Quinnipiac School of Business and graduated from Westcon School of Business with a degree in business management. I've currently been enlisted in the Connecticut Air National Guard for the past 4 years, and I actually just finished 15 months of active duty service working in Danbury, assisting with the community health center, distributing vaccines and testing. So that's just a little background. So now I'm speaking in favor of this project due to the current demand of climate-controlled self-storage space in the Danbury metro area. In February of 2020, we hired Self-Storage 101, the leading consulting and management company in the self-storage industry, who conducted a pre-development self-storage site and market feasibility study for 12 Great Pasture Road in Danbury, Connecticut. Unfortunately, due to the COVID-19 lockdown, we had to postpone this project. In August of 2021, we hired Self-Storage 101 a second time to conduct a second and more current market study, which concluded that within a 3-mile radius within the submarket with the subject site, which is our location, that as a central point, that there's 303,000 square feet of unmet storage demand. Now, while there are 10 existing self-storage facilities within this 3-mile radius of our facility, 8 of these 10 facilities are at 100% capacity, with the remaining 2 at 95 and 98% capacity. Another point to focus on is how only 5 of these 10 facilities are climate controlled. Our entire facility will be fully climate controlled, every single unit. And that's really important because of the region we live in the United States with the extreme changes in temperature. Not only will our facility have all climate controlled units, they will also all include humidity control. Our facility will be named Modern Self Storage and will have to live up to its respective name due to the technology that we plan on implementing into the customer experience. First, our building will have a sleek and contemporary appearance, differing from the standard archetypal drive-up self-storage facility. That typically includes abstract colors to draw attention from the public. I've seen countless self-storage facilities that have brightly colored garage doors, dark colored roofs, mixed in with a tan building. It's not very aesthetically pleasing to the public. Our facility is not going to be like that. Our facility is one building that will be accessed by one of two entrances from the front and rear of the building. You will have access through glass sliding doors, motion censored underneath a contemporary facade using LED signage. We also will be implementing enhanced decorative landscaping around the facility that will greatly improve the overall appearance of the property. We believe in the current day that contact-free rentals are the way to go in the future of self-storage industry. With this in mind, all units will be rented online or over the phone, so the move-in process is convenient and efficient. We will be integrating state-of-the-art security measures, management softwares, and cutting-edge Bluetooth-enabled access systems to keep the facility and all its units safe and secure. We will also be adding several features to our facility that will enhance the ease of access for emergency services. Living in the Bethel-Danbury area my whole life, I have seen the exponential growth of apartments and condominiums, which, as we all know, lack storage space. And I can say that because I'm currently living in an apartment and I could really use some extra storage space for all my valuables. We believe that adding 48,000 square feet of usable self-storage space will absolutely benefit the residents of Bethel and Danbury. I say this due to the fact that, as I mentioned before, there's 300,000 square feet of unmet storage demand within 3 miles of all directions of our location. One of the most important aspects of this project is that we are taking a pre-existing non-conforming property and turning it into a conforming property. At this point in time, we already have our variances, wetlands approval, traffic approval, and fire marshal approvals. If this project is as successful as we expect and hope it to be, we also plan on developing the adjacent pre-existing unconforming properties at 14 and 16 Great Pasture Road. By doing so, we will be creating one large state-of-the-art contemporary self-storage facility that fits in with the surrounding commercial businesses. Now, this is everything I worked for my college career, and with as many challenges and uphill battles that I'm sure will happen, I really would like to see this project come to fruition. So I just hope you all take into consideration what I said, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Draper. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application? Anyone else in favor? Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application? Anyone in opposition? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application? I just have a couple of questions. Jen, I'll run the questions by you. I'll allow the applicant to respond. I'm looking at the letter that Mike Mizuko sent. Mike wrote several letters on January 29th. This is the one addressed to Jennifer Eminger, and it says, following is in response to comments in your staff report to the Planning Commission dated December 30th, 2021. It's on number 4. All of Mike's points are numbered. This would be number 4. And again, I'm no expert on self-storage or parking or anything like that, but it's mentioned in paragraph 4 that, again, there's 470 units proposed for this use. But unless I'm missing something, there's 4 parking spaces on the site plan, 2 in the front, 2 in the back. I mean, it just kind of strikes me, and again, I'm not an expert on it, but that doesn't strike me as a lot of parking spaces for a 470 unit self-storage facility. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But again, and just sort of eyeballing the plans, you know, it's a pretty large building on a relatively small piece of land when you compare it to the size of the building. Is there any way, Jen, the applicant mentioned several other self-storage facilities, we could somehow figure out the parking at other self-storage facilities? I don't know how we would do that via, I don't know, aerial Google Maps or Google Earth, or is there anything we could do to look into that?
Hey, can I respond? Does that?
Well, let let Jennifer respond first, and then you can go ahead, Jen.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, that's certainly something staff can provide. You know, there are numerous, there's different types of self-storage facilities. You have the pull-up kind, and then you have the interior. We have, I think there's 2 in Danbury, and then there's a couple hybrids. And we do know that there are some in New Milford, in Ridgefield, and I believe there's some over in Putnam County as well. So we can pull, we can certainly look at either Google Earth or, the city aerials to look at, actually, it would be Google Earth to look at the ones out of the city, outside the city. But we can provide that and do a little bit of research and find out the number of parking spaces provided. If we know the number of units, we can certainly provide that as well.
Okay, I think the applicant wanted to comment and they're welcome to do so.
Yeah, so if you recall, we did page through Google Earth and look at the images of the life storage. And you can see that a facility that's over twice the size and has over or almost 2.5 times the number of rental units, that there's very little parking. We had the applicant actually spend some time over there on Saturday, November 2nd, between the hours of 10 a.m. and 12 p.m. And they observed and videoed the self-storage on Kenosha Avenue, where they said that there was 1 vehicle entering and exiting the facility during that time. They also observed it on Sunday, the following day, between the hours of 12 and 2 p.m., a 2-hour window, where they observed 8 vehicles enter and exit the facility during that time. They also noted there was 1 vehicle and 1 U-Haul truck in the parking lot the entire time. And they also noted that Saturday and Sunday, it was warm and sunny, days that would be, optimal for, move-in as opposed to a rainy day. And so one of my questions back to them was, well, how can you determine based on the video how long the car, like the average time at the facility? And they came back and their response was about approximately 13.5 minutes. And so, I had called West, or not West, Life Storage, and spoke to somebody, and they said on the weekends they have anywhere from 30 to 40 visitors a day, and that was from a 6 a.m. to a 10 p.m. period. So we did a lot of research on this. It's not like we're, just winning this haphazardly. And if you take, roughly 5 visitors an hour, I mean, and that was substantiated by the time that they spent there on Saturday, November 2nd and November 3rd. We feel that there's more than enough adequate. And it's not only just the 4 parking spaces. We do have this whole area back here that's for, loading and unloading too. So if somebody pulls in, they can certainly park in the space as a loading area. I mean, you could probably fit, at least 2 cars in there. So
thank you for that, Mike. I don't know, again, and I'm all for, moving things along, but I still I guess I'd just like to see a little bit more documentation in the record on the matter of parking. It just.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
We thought we provided enough, but we'll do some more work on it.
All right, there was another issue, number 7 on the same letter. I guess it's page 2. There are several islands for snow storage. If snow gets stacked up, a bucket loader can drop snow over the retaining wall into the detention basin. Again, it's a big building. It's a fairly tight site here, and I think the retention wall is 10 feet high with a fence on it. Are you sure you can get a bucket loader to pick up snow and drop it over a 10-foot retaining wall with a fence on it? Is that feasible?
Well, the 10-foot wall is on the low side, so you only have to get over the fence. So the retaining wall drops off towards the detention basin. So you're not having to lift over the 10-foot and then a fence. The wall is let me just go to. So here's the detention basin. It's an exaggerated scale, so try not to get like weirded out. It's exaggerated in the vertical alignment, but the top of the walls here, your parking lot is here. So there'll be a fence or a guardrail on top of that, but you're just going to be dumping over that, which is going to be no more than like 4 feet high.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you for clarifying that for me.
Sure.
Commission members, any further questions for the applicant at this time? And again, I'll defer to the commission. I just personally, just for my own clarification or peace of mind, I just would like to see a little bit more information on the traffic, on the parking. So on this particular application, I'm going to ask that we don't close it this evening, but again, I'll defer to the commission. Does anyone have any feelings either way? Strong feelings?
Yeah, we still have to provide some more information, and I just think we need that opportunity to be able to submit that stuff.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, please, Jennifer.
if I may, thank you. From staff's position, we wouldn't recommend closing it either. I'm still doing my review. Staff will need time to pull that information together that you had requested. And of course, as soon as we pull that together, I'll distribute it to the commission. And we, as Mike said, we just had gotten the engineering department's review. It was not a clean letter. Kelly, as Mike said, Kelly's has requested additional information. I have not gotten a sign off from the traffic engineer yet. And we did get a sign off from construction services. So we're not quite there yet. And I am still interested in seeing, I know Mike says that New England Land Surveying is, he's still working with them to finish up the contours. And, I still need to look at that and analyze that cut and fill and look at how that impacts the floodplain.
Okay. Thank you for that, Jen. Commission members, unless there's any other questions or discussion, I think it's appropriate to make a motion to continue.
I'll make the motion to continue this application.
Motion made by Mr. Kyokyo. I think I saw a second from Mr. Sylvain. Any
Sure,
further discussion?
second.
Thank you, Barry. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? This matter will be continued until our next meeting. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay. As I mentioned earlier, the matter of item 2 under our continuation of public hearings agenda, 46 Mill Plain LLC. I just won't bother reading that whole thing. I'll just again repeat what I said earlier, which was we'll be hearing no testimony or input on this particular application. It will be continued until our March 2nd, 2022 meeting, and that will be that. Okay, under old business for discussion and possible action, item 1, Alpha Professional Building LLC, application for special exception revised site plan approved for conversion of professional office space or to medical office space in the CA80 zone, 34 Mill Plain Road, E15104, special exception 783. That was the public hearing we closed earlier this evening. Does anyone have any discussion or wish to comment on that application to give Jennifer guidance? Anyone?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a couple of comments. I don't really have any issue with the application. Seems pretty reasonable. It's just a matter of cleanup, compliance with the staff report items, including the loading zone and the sidewalk changes. Make sure those get cleaned up, as well as compliance with the ZBA variance. If those are all set, then I don't have any issues with this.
Thank you, Mr. Kyokyo. Anyone else want to offer a comment? Helen, please.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to agree with what Bob just said. It's pretty simple other than that, so I just want to add my comments there.
Thank you.
Same here. No other issues. I agree with Bob's comments.
As do I. So that is the discussion for item 1 under alpha. I think, Jennifer, you have Bob laid it out pretty well of your guidance.
Yep.
So we're going to move to item 2. JR Associates LLC, application for revised special exception, application for revised special exception, revised site plan approval for continued approval, special exception, use of storage, sale, rental, and or repair of construction equipment and add storage or sale of building materials, 42 Kenosha Avenue, E17086, special exception 641. Again, we closed that public hearing this evening. Again, commission members, would anyone like to offer a comment or observation on this application?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Kyoto?
Yeah, again, I think pretty straightforward. I don't have any issues with this application. I'm okay with it.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to, remember, you don't have to chime in, but you're welcome to. Ms. Hofstadter, Mr. Sylvain?
I'm just looking over if there were conditions, and I can't remember that there were any, but I could be wrong. So I don't know whether the motion should include, the terms with conditions or not. I was just reviewing that now.
I'll leave that to Jennifer when she drafts the resolution.
Oh, right. Okay, we're not voting. I'm sorry. Thank you.
No, not at all. And I too agree. I don't have any objection to it. I remember when they had those gigantic cranes, hoists, man lifts, grapple hooks, whatever they were in front there, and I guess it was okay. This just seems to be less intrusive than that use. So I too have no objection to approval.
Okay.
So Jen, I think you've got your guidance on that one as well.
Thank you very much.
Okay, that's it for our old business agenda. We're going to drop down to the one referral we have, which is an 824 referral, February 2022 City Council Agenda Item number 13, sewer line easement, Danbury Municipal Airport. Commission members, there was a report dated February 15, 2022, which was again linked to the agenda. And Jen, are you going to handle this one?
I am, Mr. Chairman.
Please.
Okay. So we have City Council received a request from Michael Safranek, the airport administrator, to convene an ad hoc committee to consider a temporary construction easement for the installation of a sewer main within the limits of the airport. The temporary construction easement is required to enable the installation of a privately funded sewer main extension. West Myrie Holdings LLC has hired Ben Dodo to design that extension, and it currently terminates in Bacchus Avenue near the FedEx building. And the proposal is to serve approximately, that we know of, 3 to 4 properties. I know my staff report says 3, but I believe it's 3 to 4 properties that are accessed from My Rubric Road. And these include 45A, 45B, and 43 My Rubric. Preliminary engineering concept plans prepared by Ben for West Myrie Holding LLC identify the portion of the main extension within the right-of-way of My Rubric prior to veering onto the property of the airport along the taxiway and then across private property, eventually terminating at the rear of 43 My Rubric. So the plan of conservation and development indicates the properties intended to be served are located, these properties are located within the proposed sewer service area. Therefore, staff doesn't object to a future extension of the sewer main to serve these properties. And to be clear, this isn't a request for an extension, it's just the request for the temporary construction easement. However, the plan indicates or provides some guidance with respect to serving properties within the sewer service area. And the plan indicates that consideration be given to additional properties that could be served by the extension. So in this regard, staff queries whether the extension should occur within the right-of-way of Myrybrook as opposed to across land of the airport to serve only a handful of properties. A roadway location would offer the potential for more properties to connect to municipal sewer. In addition, staff is not aware of the approval of the Public Works Department of the proposed location, which forms the basis for the request of the easement, the construction easement. If the proposed location across the airport is acceptable to DPW, then council would be in a better position to consider said easement. So based on planning concerns noted above, and because the location has not been fully vetted by Public Works, staff recommends the issuance of a negative referral, notwithstanding the property's location within the proposed sewer service area.
Jen, I'm trying to figure this out. Public Works hasn't agreed to the design of this?
No, not that we're aware of.
So they requested a construction easement based on a design that hasn't been agreed to. So I'm just trying to get a feel for the chronology of this whole thing. It seems like it's chronologically not flowing the way it should. Is that a correct statement?
It seems so. I mean, typically, you know, the process would dictate, you know, the design and the location is, you know, vetted through Public Works. You know, our engineering department will review it, whether directors involved or, you know, if Dave Day, superintendent of public utilities, is involved. You know, it's a group of individuals that review this, that review the design, and then it's submitted to council. Again, we're talking about the extension. It's submitted to council, and as part of those 8 steps, that's when, you know, once you know the location, then the easements come from that point. Because if the main gets relocated for whatever reason, the easements are no longer valid. In this case, the temporary construction easement, you know, would certainly be, it would be needed to do any work on the airport property. And additional easements would be required on private property. So, but again, the Public Works hasn't approved this location, and we just feel it's you know, the process is that they review it, and then council, it goes to council for, you know, it goes for their review and approval. It gets referred to the planning commission, and then council votes on it. And then the details are worked out at that point.
So I guess to summarize, a positive referral would, in the opinion of the department, would be premature at this point. Is that
That's correct. I mean, again, unless in some point in the near future, those, you know, the Public Works Department works with West Myrie Holdings and Ben and anyone else and determines that this is the appropriate location, you know, they could do that. But right now, because again, we're required to act on the referral as submitted to us, we feel it's a, you know, the standard process should be gone through.
okay? Thank you. Commission members, any questions or discussion for Jennifer?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Please, Bob.
So it looks like this would be more of a straight line from kind of FedEx Bacchus Avenue to the 43 Marybrook versus kind of going along the road and winding around. Is that fair comment or question?
So, I mean, sort of. I'm actually going to share my screen because I have the map that was submitted to us.
I'm not really sure where they're looking to go. I see the property there. It looks like it would be a straight line from there, but
Can you all see this?
coming up.
You
Yep.
can now.
Okay. So let's see if I can get the annotate to work. Okay. So here is the FedEx building right here.
Yeah.
So it's going to go from this point to the intersection. And at this point, it's actually in Myrybrook Road.
Okay.
And then it juts onto the airport property, runs parallel with Myra Brook, but on the airport property, and then runs along the taxiway behind. This is the airport hangars you approved, I think last
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
And this is the Glicken House building. Wags is right here. So it would go, and the Audi service center is right here. So it would go behind those buildings, kind of, you know, come in at an angle, come down, and then terminate at 43 Myra Brook.
Got it.
As opposed to coming, again, it would come, if it came in through Myra Brook, it would come straight down and then come through the road.
Yep. So it's
And
probably
again,
not,
there's a possibility that it could come from the other side, closer to Sugar Hollow, because it's my understanding it terminates at Wallingford Road.
All right.
okay.
Any other questions or discussion on this referral?
Mr. Chairman, I just have
Go
a
ahead.
question about, it would be normal procedure for the Department of Public Works to be involved in this, right? That's what I think I'm hearing. And that hasn't happened, and apparently. So I wonder why that is. Is it optional by default, or, you know, and it's just would be preferred, or should Department of Public Works have reviewed this and given you, you know, comments and approvals?
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Go ahead. Yep.
So again, standard procedure, this would, you know, the design would be vetted through, reviewed and signed off on by the Department of Public Works, which again, it's the big umbrella. It includes engineering, includes public utilities. Whatever plan is presented, that gets reviewed, and then it's submitted to council. So it's my understanding there have been some discussions. We're just not aware of, and we've spoken to the Director of Public Works, that has not been signed off on yet. This design has not been signed off on.
Okay, thank you.
And I just wanted to add, you know, standard procedure is, and what we typically see is the extension, you know, any installation of the main is within the right of way, and then you take your laterals off the main. And this gives the opportunity to serve those properties on both sides of the road.
Oh,
And the sewer service, so the plan, the sewer service, the plan that's in the plan of conservation and development shows the area to the north and south of Myra Brook as part of that proposed sewer service area.
thank you. Helpful.
Okay. Any further discussion, commission members? And again, if not, I'll entertain a motion for a positive or a negative referral, depending on.
Mr. Chairman, I just have one more question. So the proposal is that this would be private pay for all of this work and extending the sewer, as opposed to the city paying for this?
That's correct. It's privately funded, as opposed to, you know,
Yeah, which is going to get into my next question, I guess. If they go along the road, how does the assessment work? Would
well,
those?
again, it's, you know, if the neighborhood petitions, then they're assessed. If someone comes in and privately funds it, then there is no assessment. They pick
Okay.
up the entire cost. So it's no different putting it in the road than it is along the airport, the rear of the airport property.
Yep.
You know, it's still
Okay.
privately funded, and anyone taking laterals would then pay for the lateral, and then you're paying for your, you know, your sewage fees.
Yep, got it.
As
Okay,
opposed to if you petition council as a private homeowner and you get your neighborhood, your street to agree based off of, I don't know what I I think it's 1/3. I'm not entirely sure how many have to be in favor of the installation. You're assessed. So you're paying the assessment, and then, you know, there's the fee for the lateral, and then you're paying your sewage fees. So
Yep.
this would be privately funded. That's the flip side of that.
Yep, got it. Thank you.
Okay. Would anyone like to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I guess I'll make a motion for a negative referral based on our discussion, and I guess the necessity to for the DPW to get involved and ensure that the plans make sense, and I guess finalize all of the plans prior to us really making an appropriate referral.
Okay, I'll second that.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Kyoko for a negative referral, seconded by Ms. Hofstadter. Is there any further discussion, commission members? Hearing none. All in favor of a negative referral, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? This matter gets a negative referral, and let's just hope they work the kinks out of this. I'm sure it will be back. Okay, there's nothing, that's the only referral we had. You'll see nothing under new business or correspondence. Unless there's anything else this evening, commission members, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, so moved.
Motion made and seconded to adjourn. Any discussion? All in favor, please. Aye.
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 Opposed? The meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for your participation.
Good
Have a
luck,
good
everyone.